Most people are trying to lose fat the wrong way. They pinch their waist. They look in the mirror, all right? They step onto a scale. But the fat that kills you is not the fat you can see. It's the fat around your organs, in your liver, in your heart, in your muscles. You can be lean and still metabolically toxic. Now, we've talked about this before, but here we're going to go in a little deeper. It's called TOFI, thin outside, fat on the inside. Today, I'll show you why DEXA and MRI matter, what TOFI really means, why visceral fat behaves differently than subcutaneous fat. That's the one you can pinch. How resistant starch reduces organ fat. Yeah, resistant starch. It's a good one. Stay till the end. I'll explain this completely. Why Norwegian 4x4 and sprinting beat long and slow cardio, and everyone is making this mistake. And the exact hierarchy to eliminate visceral fat without destroying muscle. This is about precision, not guessing. Let's get going. What actually is visceral fat? Visceral fat is not cosmetic. It's a metabolically active. It secretes inflammatory cytokines. It disrupts insulin signaling. It increases liver fat, cardiac fat, pancreatic fat. It drives insulin resistance, atherosclerosis, NAFD, meaning fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, diastolic dysfunction, neuroinflammation, subcutaneous fat, especially superficial. Subcutaneous fat is different. All right? Superficial subcutaneous fat. That's a little tiny layer on the bottom. If you do an MRI, you can see it. Particularly gluteofemoral fat is metabolically protective. It acts as a metabolic buffer. The problem is not fat. The problem is ectopic fat. Fat where it doesn't belong. Okay? So that's what we're going to discuss. So when we look at TOFI, thin outside, fat inside, like a lot of Asians have this, Indians, you see this, and also the rest of the population that isn't training, correctly. So let me give you this scenario. You have normal BMI, flat abdomen, could have visible abs, and still have 12 to 15% liver fat. Fat infiltration in skeletal muscle, right? So it's like marbled, not good. Pericardial fat around the heart. Now you're talking TOFI, okay? The only way to see this is not on the scale, not the mirror. You need imaging, okay? DEXA scan versus MRI. You need one of these, right? Okay, so a DEXA will measure total fat mass, estimates visceral adipose tissue, tracks muscle versus fat. It's a good baseline tool, no doubt. It's, for me, the gold standard. Now, you want to go one step higher, an MRI. Okay, this is the true gold standard for organ fat. It measures liver fat percentage, measures intramuscular fat, quantifies pericardial fat, identifies pancreatic fat. If someone is metabolically struggling with normal weight, MRI changes the entire strategy. You cannot fix what you do not measure. And it's a visual reality check for people. And that's why the MRI really works well. So let's talk about the good fat. There is good fat. People demonize all fat. There is good fat, okay? There's a protective layer. It's called superficial subcutaneous fat. It improves insulin sensitivity, stores lipids safely, reduces spillover into liver and muscle, is hormonally different from visceral fat, which is very dangerous, as we know, right? People with more gluteofemoral fat often have lower cardiometabolic risk. The issue is not being too soft. The issue is having fat inside your organs. And the latest research is showing this one extra strategy that we're going to be using. And this is called resistant starch, non-digestible carbohydrates. Here's where most people are outdated. Non-digestible starches, resilient starches type 2 and type 3, inulin and beta-glucans. They are fermented by the gut bacteria into short-chain fatty acid, especially butyrate. Butyrate improves insulin sensitivity, reduces hepatic fat, improves metabolic function, decreases inflammation, increases GLP-1 signaling, and recent human trials show resistant starches intake reduce liver fat, visceral adipose tissue, postprandial glucose, fasting insulin. So the mechanism used here, improvement of the gut barrier, reduced endotoxemia, improved hepatic liver metabolism. This is not about low carb dogma, although we need to watch, especially the starches, the regular starches. It's about metabolic flexibility. Strategic fiber reduces visceral fat. Okay, so when we move to the next section, I'm going to be talking, and I'll get back to that, but let me move to exercise. The exercise that actually reduces organ fat. And it's not what you think. It's not like low, phase 2 cardio, long, slow cardio. This has minimum impact on visceral fat once adapted. What works? High intensity, specific Norwegian 4x4 protocols. 4 minutes at 85 to 95% max heart rate. 3-minute active recovery. Repeat 4 times. Proven to reduce visceral fat, improve VO2 max, improve mitochondrial density, improve cardiac function. And the next one, sprinting. Uphill, 30 seconds, all out. Full recovery, 6 to 10 rounds. This stimulates AMPK, turns on the switch, right, to start reducing fat, using fat as energy. PGC1 alpha, mitochondrial biogenesis, fat oxidation. No chronic long distance, cortisol elevation, okay? No muscle wasting, high output, short duration. That's key. So most people on the treadmill doing all this stuff, trying to drop fat, doing slow cardio, no good. Good for VO2 max. It has its place, but in this section, I'm specifically talking how do we reduce visceral fat. These are key. You need to be doing this. And the one thing that is non-negotiable here, resistance training. It is absolutely key, right? So we've been through 2 that you need to incorporate. Resistance training is one that is just your base, right? Your baseline. It never leaves you. Muscle is your glucose disposal system. More muscle, less ectopic fat, better insulin sensitivity, lower liver fat, higher resting metabolic rate. Resting metabolic rate. You cannot permanently reduce visceral fat. Cardio without muscle is metabolic maintenance, not reversal. So how is this advanced strategy? What's the hierarchy of this advanced strategy? This is like my ultimate, okay, visceral fat, we need to eliminate it. And we all have it, right? What do? Okay. 1, imaging. DEXA scan for sure. And it's cheap. It's like $100 for a DEXA scan. You need to do it, and measure, continue measuring it. If you can, do an MRI. It's the next level. Do an MRI. It's a little more expensive, but worth the money. Trust me. Step 2, increase muscle mass. Okay? Resistance training. So, step 3, start with Norwegian 4x4 twice weekly. Sprint intervals once weekly. Okay? 30 to 40 grams of fiber, including resistant starch. And we'll talk about it a little more at the end. I'm going to give you the lowdown on it. Protein, as I always say, 1.6 at the low end, 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight at the high end, okay? Ideal body weight. That's where you need to be. Protein needs to be high. You need to optimize your sleep, 7 to 9 hours. This is non-negotiable. Sleep will drive inflammation. It will drive everything bad. So optimize it. Reduce ultra-processed foods. Eliminate them. Improve insulin sensitivity through muscle contraction. Again, in the gym. Periodic fasting only if muscle mass is preserved. Okay, so not weekly extended fasting without context. Muscle first, metabolism second. Okay, longevity third. Next section. What is the timeline? How do we have the organ fat reduction timeline? Liver fat can decrease within 3 to 6 weeks with proper intervention. Intramuscular fat improves with resistance training and HIIT. Pericardial fat requires sustained VO2 max improvement. This is measurable. This is reversible. So, if you want to reduce visceral fat, you cannot ignore the microbiome. Visceral fat is not just a calorie issue. And this is the section I told you I was going to add at the end to really go in a little deeper, because we need to have this knowledge in here. It takes a little longer, but it's worth it, okay? So it's an inflammatory signaling tissue. So it's not just a calorie issue. And much of that signaling starts in the gut-liver visceral fat axis. When the microbiome is dysfunctional, gut permeability increases, meaning you got leaky gut, bad inflammation increases. Lipopolysaccharides enter circulation. Systemic inflammation rises. Hepatic fat accumulates, increases. Insulin resistance worsens. This is called metabolic endotoxemia. Like even small elevations in circulation, endotoxins, drive visceral fat storage. It's a signal that just tells your body, okay, boom, let's put fat around the organs, and it's this fake protective signal that your body has. Okay, it drives visceral fat to storage. So the question becomes, how do we correct the signaling? There are 2 levers, okay? 1, fermented foods, resistant starch, and prebiotic fibers. Fermented foods, what they actually do, okay? Let's look at what they do, because you got to understand when I say this, understand the mechanism a little bit. So I'm not going to go really deep, but just so you kind of get the picture, okay? Fermented foods increase microbiome diversity. Okay, this is critical for your intestinal and gut lining, and it's critical for anything we need to have our body function optimal. Okay, it improves short-chain fatty acid production, reduces inflammatory cytokines, improves insulin sensitivity. A Stanford study showed that regular fermented food intake increases microbiome diversity and lowered inflammatory markers. And diversity correlates strongly with lower visceral fat, lower liver fat, better metabolic flexibility, but not all fermented foods are equal. Okay, so we need to look at, okay, what is clinically effective? Which are the fermented foods that actually trigger this? Okay, so here are my recommendations. Raw sauerkraut, 1 to 2 tablespoons daily. Kimchi, small servings daily. Kefir, 150 to 200 milliliters daily. Plain Greek yogurt with live cultures. Natto, powerful for cardiometabolic health. Fermented pickles, not vinegar-only pickles. Okay, start small, increase gradually. The goal is microbial diversity, not digestive stress. Resistant starches, Next, specific prescriptions. Now let's get precise, okay? There are 4 major types of resistant starches. We care mostly about type 2 and type 3 resistant starches. So, naturally resistant due to their structure. Best sources for this: green bananas, green banana flour, raw potato starch, not cooked, high amylose maize starch. Okay, so what's the protocol for these? Okay, start with 5 grams daily. Increase to 10 to 15, 20 grams daily, if tolerated. Mix raw potato starch into cold water, kefir, Greek yogurt. Do not heat it. Heat destroys the resistance. Resistant starch type 3, okay, formed when starchy foods are cooked and then cooled. This is powerful and underutilized. So your best sources, what are your best sources here? Okay, cooked and cooled potatoes, cooked and cooled white rice, cooked and cooled lentils, and the same for beans. Overnight oats. Cooling transforms digestible starch into retrograded resistant starch. That's the key. Okay? Reheat gently I wouldn't reheat, but you can. It largely remains resistant. This is simple. Cooked rice, cool it overnight, eat the next day. You've just changed the metabolic effect. So and the research shows this is a critical, not much talked about pathway to reducing visceral fat. So we incorporate this, right? So in closing, what do we learn? Look, stop chasing abs, start chasing metabolic integrity. If you want to know your real risk, scan, don't guess. Build muscle, use high intensity intervals, use resistant starch intelligently, protect good subcutaneous fat, eliminate visceral fat. That's how you age powerfully. Love you guys. Subscribe, ring the bell notification, share it with friends. This is super important. And I'm going to follow this up by the ultimate retatrutide protocol plus. When you flatten, what do you add? Okay, this is the next video. It's going to be critical. It's really one up to this. This is critical because we haven't talked about this in a while. And this is really what I'm seeing everywhere. Even people that are looking better, have slightly abs coming out, their stomach's still distended. I know they got visceral fat. So it's a lie. They're lying to themselves. We really need to look at visceral fat in a different way. And it takes a DEXA, it takes an MRI. That's the only way you see it. See you next time. It's going to be deeper, and we keep going. Trust me, you're going to know how to deal with this stuff. Thank you.